My name is Carrie and this is Spines and Spoilers. Today I want to talk about my TBR for the rest of 2024. The goal that I set on Goodreads at the beginning of the year was 75 books. So far I've read 30, meaning that I still need to read about 40 books before the end of the year. If I repeat the same pattern that I do each year though, I think it shouldn't be a problem because usually fall is like my strongest reading season. So here's hoping. Just one sec. She's so comfy cozy back there. She is so cozy. With all that being said, let's get into it. The first book that I want to read in the second half of 2024, I guess, is Camp Damascus by Chuck Tingle. It is about a horror story set at a gay conversion camp. And you know, conversion camps in themselves are already horrific. That's a horror story in itself. So I'm extremely interested to see what he did with that, especially after reading Bury Your Gays, because neither of these are Chuck Tingle's usual fare. If you just do a quick search of Chuck Tingle's name, that's not what shows up. The second book is A Study in Drowning by Ava Reed. This is a fantasy, kind of sci-fi type book. I believe it's YA, and dark academia. Basically, there is a girl who is obsessed with fairy tales and stuff like that, and she gets the chance to clean out the mansion of her favorite author, who just died, unfortunately. But she has the honor of being able to clean out their mansion, so, you know, that's something. But there is an individual who thinks that this author was actually a fraud, and she has to somehow prove that they were not. Meanwhile, all kinds of stuff starts happening. What kinds of stuff? I don't know. I'm going off a synopsis and what people have said, so we'll see. Number 3 is The Hawthorne Brothers by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This is a prequel, I believe, to the Inheritance Game series, and it circulates around the Hawthorne brothers themselves and their struggle with identity. Number 4 is The Angel of Indian Lake by Stephen Graham Jones. It follows the protagonist of the last 2 books, and My Heart is a Chainsaw and Don't Fear the Reaper. That's right, this is the 3rd book in that series, and it circulates around Jade once again. It sounds like this is probably going to be the last book in the series, but I'm not really positive. But she is back in Idaho, and some stuff has been going down while she's been gone, and she's basically here to solve some generational trauma and, of course, some crime. I'm excited. Number 5 is Horror Movie by Paul Tremblay. It circulates around a group of people who decided they were going to make a horror movie, and then one by one they started dying, I believe. It's about the cursed movie type of trope. But basically these people spent 3 weeks filming thing, and then for some reason they stopped. It was never really released. There was only a small amount of footage that was leaked, like 3 scenes, but it got a cult following. So now people want them to remake it in its entirety. Problem is, there's only one person left of the original cast, and they've decided that they want to help out and maybe help prevent the same thing from happening again. What's that thing? No idea. I guess we'll find out. Number 6 is The Heiress by Rachel Hawkins. I actually don't know much about this one other than it's like a mystery thriller type thing, and it circulates around a girl who doesn't have a good relationship with her family, I believe, or the protagonist doesn't. I'm gendering this protagonist. I don't know what gender they are. But yeah, they end up rejecting their inheritance and then have to gather for a funeral, I think, anyway, and kind of get blindsided. This is just like a vague idea that I have of the plot. Number 7 is Middle of the Night by Riley Sager. I'm excited for this because it's Riley Sager, so it's either going to be good or ridiculous. Either way, I win. But it circulates around 2 boys, well, 1 technically, but 2 boys. They decide to camp in their backyard, and one of them goes missing, and there's nothing left over except a slash in the tent, basically, with a knife. 30 years later, some weird stuff starts happening, and it's all tied to Billy in one way or another. This is the individual who died. The person who lived is Ethan, the guy who died is Billy. Why am I like this? But yeah, it's a matter of Is this supernatural? Is it a prank? Is Billy still alive and trying to get revenge on Ethan for not doing something more? There's no telling. I guess we'll see. Number 8 is Bookshops and Bone Dust by Travis Baldree. It is a prequel that circulates around the character of Viv, who was a warrior who was wounded and then has to basically stay in the same place for a little while in a small town to try and heal. Unfortunately, adventure kind of follows her and suspicious figures start showing up. It's a whole thing. It is a cozy mystery fantasy type thing from what I understand, and very queer. It is the prequel to Legends and Lattes, I believe, which I really enjoyed. I thought it was a good fall read, and I'm hoping that this one will be the same. Number 9 is The Silent Corner by Dean Koontz. In this plot, people have randomly started killing themselves, and it's people who you would not think would do so. And it's starting to happen at almost like pandemic rates from what I can tell. And the main character has decided that she wants to get to the bottom of it. However, the more she investigates, the more people try and stop her. So there seems to be some sort of conspiracy, possibly. My mom suggested this. Apparently it's a series? I don't know how they'll turn this into a series. Number 10 is actually a book that I've been working on for a little bit. It's Never Was Still at Night, and it's by various indigenous authors. It is a anthology collection of horror stories, essentially. I do not have much of it left. I think I have 2 short stories left. Almost there. I've been taking my time because I actually want to take in each story and give them the attention that they deserve. So far, basically all winners. There have been a couple that have kind of made me uncomfortable, or I might be like, that wasn't as good as the other, but none of them have been bad so far. Number 11 is The Midnight Feast by Lucy Foley. I know what you're probably thinking if you actually have watched my things before. And yes, Lucy Foley, I am going to give her one last try. This is her 3rd chance. If it's another strike, she's out. If I don't like this one, no more Lucy Foley. But it sounds interesting. Basically, there is a party at a manor to celebrate its opening, I suppose. Things get a little out of hand. People can't remember things the next morning. All they know is that there's a dead body that's found and someone set a fire at some point. People are just acting really weird. No telling what's going on. I'm intrigued. I at least want to know what happened. You know, even if I don't end up enjoying it, I just need to know what happened. Number 12 is actually another short story anthology. It's You Like It Darker by Stephen King. So, Stephen King and I have a bit of a rocky relationship, but I generally love his short stories. Like, there aren't many misses when it comes to his short stories. I'm hoping that's the case here. And of course it's horror. Number 13 is I Was a Teenage Slasher by Stephen Graham Jones. I love Stephen Graham Jones, as you know. Complete delight. Love all his stuff that I've read so far. It's a short story, or a novella, I believe, and it is a story told from the perspective of the serial killer. What's not to love about this? Number 14 is Hellbent by Leigh Bardugo. No, I have not read this yet. Somehow I was supposed to read it like a year ago at least. But yeah, this is a fantasy horror mystery and is the sequel to Ninth House. And basically the main character, Alex, has to go and save someone from purgatory. And I'm excited about that because I love that trope, the whole we have to go to hell and pull someone back out. Just having to go to some form of the afterlife and pull someone back into the present. I absolutely love that trope, and I want to see how it's represented here. Number 15 is also by Leigh Bardugo. It's The Familiar. This one is historical fiction and fantasy, which is a little bit different for her, I feel like. I don't know a lot about it, but what I do know, I'm interested to see how it's historical fiction. It's about a scullion who is caught using magic, and then people try to use her, I think, to their own ends. I think. That is what I have gleaned. I'm sorry if that's vague, and some of these other ones are a little vague. I didn't enjoy it when I just held up a thing and read the synopsis word for word. I just thought that was extremely boring and figured that I would at least try to paraphrase if I could. Number 16 is another sequel. It is The Atlas Complex by Olivia Blake. This is the third book in the series and is a queer fantasy. Basically, the characters are facing the consequences of their own actions. Number 17 is The Grandest Game by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. It's set in the same universe as the Inheritance games, but it's not told from the point of view of any of those characters, to my knowledge. Like, they're there. They're actually holding a competition and having other people compete to win money. And I'm really interested to see how that turns out, what characters they choose to focus on. Basically, they do the whole golden ticket thing. 7 people have to find a golden ticket. They're the ones who are allowed to compete. Number 18 is Graveyard Shift by M.L. Rio. It's a horror mystery. Basically, a bunch of third shift workers stumble across an open grave, and they figure it might be connected to a series of disappearances that have been happening. Number 19 is One Perfect Couple by Ruth Ware. So this circulates around one couple. They end up cast in a reality show and they're whisked off to a tropical island in the middle of nowhere. But then, of course, shenanigans ensue and they end up basically locked onto the island because a storm hits. They lose all of their electricity in contact with the mainland, and it's about how they survive. Number 20, I actually don't know why I put on this list. It's because I made it a few days ago. I just read this one. It's In Charm's Way by Lena Harper. It was really good. I absolutely enjoyed it. Sapphic fantasy. It's the 4th book in sort of a series. All of it is related to this one town in which magic exists, but they mask it by pretending it's a sort of fake witchy town. But yeah, magic actually exists. It follows a different character each time that turns into a different couple. There's actually pretty graphic sex in it, which I'm not gonna lie, I was a little bit when I read it at first, because that's not generally what I read, but it's written pretty well and it doesn't take super long, so you can just skip over it if you don't really like it. But yeah, if you do like that kind of thing, it's written pretty well. And there's some interesting stuff, I'm not gonna lie, especially in the 3rd one. This is the 4th book in this series, and it circulates around an individual who lost her memory in the last one due to a spell gone awry. This is her journey to try and get her memory back, but she accidentally ends up summoning a lot of evil creatures by attempting to do so. So yeah, it was a good read. Would recommend it. Number 21 is another sequel. It's The Haunting Moon by Susan Dennard. It is the sequel to The Luminaries, which was extremely good. It is YA, fantasy, romance, paranormal, all those things kind of lumped together. I really enjoyed the first one. I actually just started this one in audiobook form, and thus far I'm really enjoying it. But it circulates around the main character. She finished her trials in the first one and has basically become this local celebrity because she saved someone's life. But there are still hunters disappearing and no one knows why. There are also clues that indicate that her father may not actually be the disgrace and the criminal that they think he is, and that maybe he was framed. I actually don't know a lot about 22, despite how long I've wanted to read it. It's Let Us Descend by Jasmine Ward. From what I understand, it is a retelling of American slavery from a different perspective. I don't know what perspective, but I guess we'll see. I like Jasmine Ward. I've heard nothing but good things about this, so it's definitely at the top of my list. Number 23 is Tales from the Cafe by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. It is translated into English from Japanese, and it's just another 4 people going into the cafe. It's part of a series. Basically, there is a cafe where you can time travel, but you can't change anything ultimately. There are all these rules that circulate around it, and there's like a limited amount of time. You have to finish the encounter before the coffee gets cold. Number 24 is Home is Where the Bodies Are by Ginevra Rose. I have never read anything by this author before. I don't think I've even heard of them, but this book sounds extremely interesting. It's about 3 siblings. Their mother just died, their father ran out on them years ago, and they're basically going through all of her belongings, trying to settle the estate, and they come across all these VHS tapes. And one of them sticks out in particular because it has their parents covered in blood, and a dead body. So, are they murderers? But should this be reported? I don't know. Number 25 is Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. This is a sci-fi, and I'm not going to lie, I'm reading it because my girlfriend recommended it. I loved The Martian, that was by Andy Weir, but I've heard other people kind of dissuade me from reading this. They've said it's not as good as The Martian by any amount. But she read it, she sang its praises, and I take her opinion seriously. So I'm gonna give it a try. It is about a man. He goes on a mission with a lot of people in NASA. They're going to save the world, you know. But the thing is, something happens. He wakes up, can't remember anything. Crew's dead. He's millions and millions of miles away from the Earth, and has to somehow still find a way to save it without having his memories and knowing what happened. Number 26 is another horror anthology. It's called Out There Screaming. It was put together by Jordan Peele, but it is a collection of Black authors and their stories. So I'm really excited for that one. I wish I could just like get all of the short story anthologies together and just kind of read them back to back. I think that would be really fun. Number 27 is Men, Women, and Chainsaws by Stephen Graham Jones. This is a novella about a woman who wants to get revenge on her ex, so she chooses a bloodthirsty Camaro to do it. Number 28 is Black Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse. It is the first book in the Between Earth and Sky trilogy and is a sci-fi and fantasy. It's also queer from what I understand. I don't know much about the actual plot, but that in itself is enough to get me interested. I was actually supposed to, I sort of started this series before, but I accidentally got the second book, and yeah, that it makes no sense if you get the second book. So yeah, we're going back. We're doing this in order. We're gonna do this right. Number 29 is Local Woman Missing by Mary Kubica. It is about 3 girls who disappear one after the other, and then the last one ends up showing back up. From what I understand, this book is basically her telling her story of what happened whenever she disappeared. Number 30 is First Lie Wins by Ashley Elston. It is about an undercover agent who has to date this individual for a little while. She is looking for a particular man who is a mark, and I think she has to kill him. I'm not positive about the details. Either way, she starts falling for this boyfriend and starts to think, maybe I could just settle down here. It's fine. Just as she's considering settling down, though, her past starts catching up with her to haunt her. Number 32 is The Whispering Night by Susan Dennard. It is the 3rd book in the Luminary series, and from what I understand, it is the conclusion. I know nothing about it. I kinda don't want to know anything about it because I'm reading the 2nd one right now, and I don't want spoilers, thank you. Number 33 is They Call Me a Lioness by Ahad Tamimi. It is actually a memoir that circulates around a Palestinian woman who was jailed at the age of 16 by Israeli soldiers. I'd love to learn more about things from her point of view, and it just sounds like a really harrowing story. Okay, this is where things really get rocky, because I did some research on all the other ones that I've said so far. These other ones were added after the fact. Those were just my initial 33, and I was like, well, I need 40. So I found some other ones. Haven't actually researched any of them yet, but I don't get a lot of time alone, so. Number 34 is Celestial Monsters by Aiden Thomas. It is a sequel to the Sunbearer Trials, which I really enjoyed. Thus far, I've liked everything that Aiden Thomas has written, at least that I've read. I don't think I've missed anything. I would love to be reading another book that they're supposedly writing that's basically the Titanic, but make it gay, and in space. But that's not out yet, and we don't even have a title. It was supposed to come out at the beginning of this year. But, you know, writer troubles, it happens. Maybe they had writer's block, maybe it just fell off, and they decided not to do it. Who knows? Either way, I support you, Aiden Thomas. You do what you need to do. Here's where things get rocky. Number 35 is Allegedly by Tiffany D. Jackson. I remember that I really want to read this. I like Tiffany D. Jackson. I trust that. I do not remember what the plot is, just that I really wanted to read it. So this should be interesting. Number 36 is Indian Burial Ground by Nick Medina. Same situation, don't remember a damn thing about it. But I do know that I like Nick Medina and I want to give them any chance I can. Number 37 is actually a bit of a priority for me. It's Ankle Snatcher by Grady Hendrix. No fucking clue what it's about. Not a damn clue. I just know that it's Grady Hendrix, and I somehow missed this one. This one apparently came out like 2 or 3 years ago, and I missed it, even though it's Grady Hendrix. What am I doing? It would really suck if it turned out that I didn't hear about it because it's not good. Hopefully that won't be the case. So what I'm learning about these is that they are basically author entries. Like, I heard about the book, I liked the author, so I added it to the list and said I wanted to read it. Number 38 is The House of Last Resort by Christopher Golden. I like Christopher Golden. Don't remember much anything about the plot. I know that all of these so far, I'm pretty sure they are horror, except for Celestial Monsters. And that's fantasy YA. Number 39 is No One Can Know by Kate Alice Marshall, and I'm excited for that one in particular because I love Kate Alice Marshall. So far, any of the books that I've read by her have been 4.5 or 5 stars. No complaints thus far, and I just want to read more of her work. That brings us to number 40, which is Silence for the Dead by Simone St. James. Very similar story. I love Simone St. James. I would read everything that she has written if I could. I just finished Murder Road by her, which isn't my favorite one of her books so far, but it was very good. And yeah, she's one of those authors where even if one of her books was off, I would continue reading her, just because I enjoy how she writes. Now, that is technically the end of my list. However, I picked out 5 more just in case I'm not able to read some of those, like something comes up, I'm not able to get a copy, I can't find it anywhere, I just decide that I don't want to read it anymore for one reason or another. Stuff comes up, happens all the time. So, number 41 is Vampires of El Norte by Isabel Cañas. This is one that I've been trying to read for a while, but I've just not been in the mood to read it. Basically, at the beginning, there's a couple, one of them ends up being attacked, what I assume is a vampire? I'm not sure. Anyway, it's the woman who gets attacked. The man assumes that she's dead, because it certainly seems that way. Anyway, years down the road, they bump into one another again, and of course, she's like, what the hell? Why did you just abandon me while I was being attacked? Which is valid. That's a valid question. And yeah, I'm just really curious to see what more there is to that plot. Number 42 is another horror anthology. It's 19 Claws and a Blackbird by Agustina Basterrica. I really enjoyed Tender as the Flesh, as much as one can enjoy that book. Maybe enjoy isn't the right word. I thought it was a really good book and I enjoyed her writing. How about that? So I'm extremely interested to see how she handles short stories. I absolutely love short stories, especially horror anthologies. I think they are wonderful and horribly underrated. That is what I was trying to say. Number 43 may come as a surprise. It is Everything the Darkness Eats by Eric LaRocca. I said at one point that I would never read anything by Eric LaRocca again. I believe I read something by them at one point and gave it 1 star. Maybe 2, and it was just because it was just so disgusting and horrifying to me. I don't remember what the plot of this is. I just remember that I read it and was like, oh, fine, that actually sounds really interesting. I guess I'll give them another try. 1 more try. Usually I'll give 3, but Eric LaRocca gets 1 because the other one was horrifying. 44, I actually can't recall. I think it's another horror story anthology. Don't quote me on that. It's The Beast You Are by Paul Tremblay. I just like Paul Tremblay. At this point, I would probably just sit there. I could just spend a couple of weeks just reading Paul Tremblay. Number 45, and the last one on this list is It Rides a Pale Horse by Andy Marina. Just go ahead and say it with me. I don't know a thing about the plot. I don't remember. I had actually put this on my list a year or 2 ago, and I remember being extremely invested in the plot. The problem is I have the memory of a snail who just woke up from a nap and has a hangover. So yeah, that's why I have to write all of these things down and do research before my videos. Otherwise, I'm just like, I know I want to read this book, don't remember anything about it. Or like my wrap-up video that I just did. Anything that was from the beginning of the year that I read is like, I'm pretty sure it was good. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that I enjoyed it. And for some books, it felt like that was all I had to say, so I had to do a little bit of research to remember what they were about. I'm sorry that I wasn't able to do as much in this case, but I really only have like a couple of hours to do all of this because that's the amount of time that I have to myself. That being said, you made it to the end. Thank you so much for watching this all the way through. I really appreciate it way more than you know. I'll try to have another video out soon. I'm trying to plan things out in advance where I can. If you want to like, share, and subscribe and do all that fancy stuff, you can. I'd appreciate it. That's on you. The most important thing that I would like you to do, though, if you would listen to me, is to love yourself. Please. I have asked you so many times. Please just love yourself. Okay, bye. If I say